Little black book, you know what time it is. 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 Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book. We're here giving you a off the chart video. Somebody asked me a question in the comment section saying how to stop going for the jugular. And I kind of just took a bit of time just to review the question and then actually ask myself the question, how do you stop going after the jugular? One thing I would say to stop going after the jugular is to actually understand why at that present moment you're going after the jugular. Oftentimes the reason why we react in a certain way to somebody is out of either fear or pride. And actually pride is part of fear. And so the reason why we react in certain ways is because we fear that we'll be taken advantage of. For instance, you're having an argument with somebody and they're talking trash to you. Now you could back off, but then your pride will tell you, listen, why are you backing off? Like if you back off, you're going to look like a dickhead. And so therefore you perp yourself up and then get further entrenched in emotion, anger, frustration, pain, annoyance. And then you react and say something and go for the throat at that particular time in that moment. Sometimes it's more calculating in the fact that the person says something, it did hurt you, but maybe they're not aware of the fact that it hurt you and you wanted to hurt them back. Sometimes we do calculate our shots that we take at people because there is something deep rooted in us which when it's touched and pressed, it erupts. Sometimes you've got a wound and you didn't know you had a wound, or you don't know you're carrying this wound, and when someone says certain things, it touches that wound and causes you to react. The same way if you had a cut on your arm and I pressed it, and it's fresh, you're going to react. And so therefore sometimes we react in situations and go for people's throats. I mean, if you're a serial person who keeps going after people's jugulars, especially in relationships, then you need to seriously look at the root cause. And that means to go back to the past. Unfortunately, there is something in your past that causes you to always in the future go after people's throats. Oftentimes it's our family. So it could be that, let's say, you've always felt like nobody listens to you, and so in a bid to get people to listen to you, when you go for the throat, people listen to you after that. Sometimes it's a case of people have stripped you of your power and your control in your younger days, and therefore in order to gain control and power in your future days, you strip other people of their power by using your words. I think Michelle said something like, "Oh, she goes to the throat for the jugular" in her chat with Chad. Previously, and said her mum was the exact same way. And the reason why they do that is because they can't fight you, they can't physically harm you, but they can try and hurt you with the words they have. And it's a case of actually kind of like making themselves feel better. It's a case of empowerment. It's a case of releasing tension and frustration from things that are happening around them. So in order to start going for the jugular, you need to start assessing what's causing me to keep going for the jugular. What is my root cause? Because an argument is a snapshot of what's been building. You see, the reason why sometimes we're intolerant to a lot of the arguments that we're facing is because something has been building. You've been putting dirt underneath the carpet for time. So when there's no dirt anymore left, you got to lift the lid, and eventually you see there's a mountain of trash just waiting there. Why? Because you've not dealt with things previously. You get me? So sometimes it's daddy issues, sometimes it's mommy issues, sometimes it's a case of the ex-boyfriend who hurt the person, or ex-girlfriend hurting the person, ruin his ugly head in insecurity, ruin his ugly head in fear, ruin his ugly head in the fact that something's too good to be true for them because they've experienced a similar situation and it didn't go well, and so there's a lack of faith or belief in that this can go well for them. There are so many different reasons, but you need to assess what happened in my past that's affecting my future. I can't tell you that because everyone's different, but what is in your past that's affecting your future? When you realize what's in your past, the first thing is acknowledge it. Okay, once you've acknowledged it, you can begin to work on it. When you begin to work on it, you need to face it face to face. Say, listen, this is what's affecting me. And if you're a believer in Jesus like myself, you pray about it and say, God, listen, touch that area. And what God normally does is He gives you a test, and it comes so quick. The test will come. Someone else will try to do something to you, and then before you know it, you're very in an argument with that person. Don't worry if you fail the test, because it's not important about the test at the time. What's important is what happens after. Did you recognize it was a test? And two, have you reviewed the situation and gone, rah, is that how I really behave? Because once you begin to acknowledge and understand how you behave, and then begin to say, I don't like that behavior, change comes. You see, change doesn't come when we don't recognize that our behavior is wrong. When you think your behavior is correct, you're not going to change it. Why would you? You think you're correct. So a lot of times, if you're going for the jugular of somebody, you hurt people, hurt other people. It's as simple as that. So there's a hurt and a pain that's inside of you that's reacting to something. Do you get what I'm saying? The Bible says the word is a sword. So therefore, if the word is like the sword, then what words are touching you can seem to be cutting you. Do you get me? And it's a double-edged sword. So it seems like the word that somebody's saying is cutting at you. But why is it cutting at you? Because what's inside of you feels pain as soon as that word touches it. As soon as somebody says something, it touches it. Do you get what I'm saying? You must also realize, well, sometimes I think we don't realize in the moment you're not wrestling flesh and blood. Meaning the person in front of you is a human. Stop dealing with them that they are the devil. Do you know what I'm saying? You see, the devil is the one that you're meant to be reserving these harsh words for. But no, you're reserving that words for your fellow man who are flesh and blood just like you. And for me, the Bible says we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. So the person you're facing right now it may seem like your enemy right now because of what they're doing or saying, but treat them like a human being. Even so, they may be coming against you like an enemy, but treat them like a human being with love. You see, if you know that when you said something that you couldn't receive that the way you're going to say it, then don't say it at all. If you know you couldn't receive it the way you're about to dish it out, don't say it at all. If you know it's going to cause harm what you're about to say, then don't say it at all. That's what we call discipline. But the discipline only comes when you realize this is wrong. And my final real point is, my final 2 points is, one, realize that you're a spirit being. But if you let emotions override your spirit, you'll never win. Emotions will lie to you. You see, your emotions tell you you are justified in the action you make, but your spirit will tell you that's not correct. Regardless of whether you thought you were correct or not, that's not correct. Yes, the person told you to shut up, but you saying shut up back, it's not going to solve anything. We don't overcome the enemy by hate. We overcome them by love. And in fact, the Bible says that you heap hot coals upon your enemy by showing him what? Love. So when you're dealing with somebody who's going to cause you to be tepid and rancid and rude and angry and atrocious, I threw a lot of big words out there, then that's when you issue love, because that heaps hot coals upon the head. But that requires you to lessen your pride. That requires you to release the reins of sovereignty over your heart. Because it's your heart that is dictating. Out of the heart flows the issues of life. Out of that heart is where all the rude words come from. It's where all your anger comes from. That place here. So you need to release sovereignty. Meaning release your boss-like ability to control your heart and say, listen, God, take control. I know probably some people are going to be like horrified. Some people are going to say, listen, I don't really believe in God. Okay, we'll get some discipline. Well, you can say discipline if you want to put it that way. So you need to be able to discipline your heart in a sense of not letting your emotions override what the Spirit is saying. My final point is this: stop seeing arguments as a win and lose. When it's a win and lose, pride will always try to take advantage. When you see an argument like a win or lose, you always lose because you're trying to win and it's not meant to be a win. There's meant to come an understanding from what you're discussing or what you're debating or even what you're arguing about. There's meant to be an understanding. If you're here just trying to win, I guarantee you will end up losing in the long run, because nobody wants to be somebody who's always right. Nobody. Do you get me? So deep it. Part of the reasons why we go for people's throats is because we are hurting ourselves and we're suffocating and we're drowning and we want to be rescued, but we don't know how to. So we claw onto other people and try to drag them below as well. And sometimes it's just a case of you haven't dealt with past issues. Sometimes it's a case of the fact that you see someone else as an enemy and not as a human being. And you know, I know a lot of us get the red light, the red mist, where when we get angry. One thing is this: the Bible says, "Be angry, but sin not." So you're allowed to be angry, but listen, don't let your anger override. Don't let your anger get to the point where you no longer have control. That's not anger. That's wrath. I mean, that's a wrath that's untapped and untamed, man. Do you know what I'm saying? So, guys, that's my little shortening thing. Nothing heavy. This is for boys and for girls, guys. Guys and girls, if you're listening to this, pass this to somebody who needs this. Do you get me? Love on the beach. Love on the beach? Whoa. Little Black Book, you already know what time it is. We're here to set the bar, build, acquire, and repair relationships. Are you mad? Are you mad? Are you lean? Boom. Appreciate you.